What's up, everyone? Thralls of Metal back again, and I am Beyond Geek to bring you an album review. This time, we are doing Iron Maiden's 17th studio album, Senjutsu Hayasama. I am, of course, Shredlord.
Ren! Necrotic.
And we want to sing for me, Brazil! Sing for me, Brazil!
Scream for me, YouTube! I don't have a lighter on me. Shit.
Anyway, this album kind of popped up out of nowhere and it's like, hey, we're gonna release it, and I could not be any more stoked. Iron Maiden is probably in a tie with Black Sabbath for my favorite metal bands of all time. So let me quit rambling and let's get right into it.
Well, for those that don't know, formed in 1975, they are fucking legends. We'll just go ahead and say that.
If you don't know who they are, just turn this off.
You're obviously just starting into metal.
Yeah.
But that's a good place to start. So this is their 17th studio album. Came out on the 3rd of September on Parlophone Records. This is another 2-disc album, much like Book of Souls, though it is 10 minutes shorter.
Thank God for that.
Yeah, that's just one Iron Maiden song short of being just as long as Book of Souls. But this one is different. Like, tonally, I think it's all over the place, and you're in for a bit of a surprise with the opening track, which is the title track. It's not what you would expect from an Iron Maiden opener. I mean, you know, Aces High and, you know, Invaders, tons of like good opening tracks that are just like, you know,
high
instant
energy.
rippers. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is more brooding, and honestly, like the riff work doesn't necessarily scream Iron Maiden either. It's kind of darker up until it gets to the chorus, but it's interesting. It follows like a tribal rhythm, and it doesn't have, of course, I mean, granted, you're going to have plenty
drums.
of, yeah, you're going to get tons of gallops, but this tribal rhythm is kind of interesting, and it kind of has this war march sort of feel to it. Very interesting song.
I think the difference in how it sounded made me excited for the album to start off, because I didn't feel like I was going to get some rehashed Maiden songs. I think every Maiden song now, because we're at album 17, you're gonna have some rehash moments, especially when one person has been your main songwriter for so long, i.e. Steve Harris. Granted, other members of the band do a lot of heavy writing, but Steve really is the guy who does a bulk of it, and he does a lot of it solo, I guess. There was a lot of videos that came out about this album, and of course, Interested I watched. And one thing that Bruce talked about is how different writing songs with someone like Adrian Smith is versus Steve Harris. Steve Harris doesn't want to write with you, or sometimes he does, but a lot of times he wants to just run home and work on something by himself and present it. Adrian Smith is the kind of guy, he's old school. He wants to sit down in the same room with you, throw some shit against the wall and see what sticks. I think those two processes of songwritings really show on this album. You can tell it doesn't sound as uniform as other Iron Maiden albums, and I believe that reason is because you have these songs that these last three epic ones, Steve Harris wrote all by himself. The other members had zero influence on it. And then you have some that just Adrian and Bruce wrote and then gave to the rest of the band and said, here's your parts. So because of that, it has a little bit of a disjointed feel to it, but it doesn't do anything to deter from the quality of the music.
The first single that they put out, Writing on the Wall.
Excellent video.
Yeah.
It is an excellent video.
Got a weird Bon Jovi vibe?
I got
Wanted,
it too.
Dead or Alive?
I got it only right away though.
Yeah. Very American Southwest. There's horses and equestrian Dickinson.
It's weird though, they kind of merge it with the folky stuff though. Like
Yeah.
it becomes, you know, country western, but also Ren Fair.
It's very upbeat, very rock and roll.
I did kind of think it was more of a rock and roll song. Like
Yeah.
it really never like ascends to become like a metal song, but it kind of has that cool kind of callback to like maybe like Thin Lizzy and stuff like that, which I know was a huge influence.
Little Aerosmith.
Yeah, actually a lot of Aerosmith. Now when it comes down to like, well, the stuff that I was looking for, the callbacks to the Maiden that I fell in love with, Stratego and Days of Future Past, both have great callbacks to like just kind of that classic Maiden sound. You get
gallop.
the gallops, the, you know, the dun 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 dun, the great chugging. Strategio, though, I think has like this really interesting lead melody that goes over it. It's not like your typical Maiden melody where it feels like it's triumphant, it's ascending. It's kind of downtrodden and maybe doomy, but it kind of adds a different dimension to something they, have definitely done a lot. I mean, a Maiden Gallop is literally on every single Maiden album you own, and every one you don't own. And Days of Future Past, being the shortest song on here at 4 minutes, is just a straight up fun rocker.
Yep.
It's just, again, has that driving spirit, that old school Maiden that you absolutely love
and adore.
And, it just kind of reaffirms why you love them.
Big theatrical choruses.
It almost reminded me of, there's certain parts that recalled some sections of like Brave New World, like maybe a Ghosts of Navigator vibe, which is a great song that Yannick wrote on that album. Adrian Smith has a killer solo. Yes. I guess I should just talk about this now. In my opinion, Adrian Smith on a guitar front carries this album. Dave and Yannick continue to do what they do and they stay in their wheelhouse, and there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it comes across as uninspired. Adrian Smith is constantly searching for new sounds, new ways to play leads, new licks, to basically stay current and passionate about it. Like, I feel like when Adrian takes a solo, there's a passion there that maybe isn't as burning bright as when Yannick or Dave necessarily takes the stage. And with writing, especially on this album, Adrian Smith is just all over the place with adding a lot of these really cool, unique touches that pop up all over this album he's responsible for. So as far as carrying their weight goes, Adrian Smith and Steve Harris really carried the bulk of this. Bruce sounds good on this album.
Yeah.
Knocking down his vocals, it sounds like they brought it down a little bit as far as keys go to help him stay in range better. And you can tell he can keep that bellow stronger longer.
And nothing feels strained. There were definitely some moments on Book of Souls where it's like, okay, he's pushing too hard, and he's been doing this for years. You're gonna lose a little bit, but lowering it down, he sounds more comfortable and actually sounds more powerful, which is really good because, that's exactly what you want out of Bruce. He bellows forth epicness. That's what he does. That's his job.
Yep.
And he does it well.
And flies.
And flies. Yeah, he flies. And fences.
Yeah.
Well, he's Lord of the Flies. Just
that's Blaze.
However, not every song on this album always necessarily worked for me. I think the two tracks that didn't really work out, number one is definitely The Time Machine. It has a way too upbeat, happy kind of verse.
It's Broadway.
Yeah, it's borderline Broadway.
It is.
And while the chorus is interesting, it's not enough for me to forget what they just made me listen to on the verses.
Tell me about your time machine, Bruce.
I don't
He
want to
will.
know.
No, he will.
He will.
But the thing on that song, though, is it's super disjointed. Like, the transitions are odd. It feels like 4 different songs that were kind of smashed together.
Kinda.
Like, there's some cool moments on it, but they sound like they would have been cool moments in, like, a more complete song.
I can get that maybe The Time Machine is there, you're going through different eras, but maybe a different way to go about it might have been the way to go. I don't know. The other song, though, that didn't really catch my eye, or ear, I should say, is Lost in a Lost World. It has a pretty intro, but the verses and the choruses are a little bit predictable. Yeah. And, they're things we've heard multiple times. There's a section in there that damn near rips off The Wicker Man from Brave New World. So close. And the one thing that's in this song that sometimes happens a lot on these songs that I personally wasn't crazy about is sometimes, and Kevin Shirley had it really high in the mix, is the guitar lead lines would mimic what the vocals are doing. And it wasn't always necessary. Bruce has a good voice. Let Bruce do his thing. There's plenty of time to do, leads and stuff. Or if you want to put some lead behind the vocals, let's maybe have it something be different. If you don't make that guitar line phrase exactly how Bruce sings it, it doesn't always sync up very well, and it gives it a little bit of a loose feel, so to speak.
And, save that for, a cool bridge or something. Not every verse.
Every verse, yeah.
Yeah.
And if we're going to talk about extra stuff that pretty much doesn't need to be there, no more keyboards in Iron Maiden. My God, stop it. Okay,
Please.
the keys on this are like very chimey. Like there are some
chimey.
spots where it works. Like
Shiny, isn't it?
oh my God.
Try me.
Like Christmas time in Maidenville.
Yeah.
Bah fucking humbug. I'm tired of it. It's everywhere though. And it's in places where like, well, you know, we could like kind of layer the sound and make it bigger here. It's like, you have 3 guitarists. Beef up the guitars just a little bit. Add another melody on top of it.
The guitars need more balls.
Pitch
Yeah.
that
Rhythm
keyboard out the
guitars
window.
have lost all balls.
Yeah.
It's bad. How do you have 3 guys, 3 different tones, and you can't... To me, that once again, that reflects, I think, on Kevin Shirley. I think that reflects on Kevin Shirley, and I have to be quite honest with you. While Kevin Shirley stepped in during Brave New World and really helped alter their sound, I'm ready for Kevin Shirley to go.
Surely you can't mean that.
I surely do. I think Kevin Shirley's a good producer, but I think he has run his course with Iron Maiden. And I know Iron Maiden has this habit of staying true and traditional, but they already have so much true and traditional, and they do things such a certain way that I think they would benefit greatly from a totally left field kind of producer. Not like, you know, someone that's going to throw some hip hop in Iron Maiden or anything, but somebody who has a different perspective maybe than Kevin or what they're used to working with in the Martin Birch days.
Yeah, you know, give them a fresh take. Someone that's going to like, you know, mix it a little bit differently. Because like, honestly, there are songs in here that I think, actually, there's a lot of songs in here I think that are really good. It's just sometimes the mix. All right, Darkest Hour. Honestly, one of my favorite tracks on here.
Could not agree more. The solos, Dave and Addie
brooding
together.
song. But the entire time I was like, it only sounds like there's one guitar tracked. And up until like, you know, Adrian Smith wails on a gorgeous
That
lead.
is a sexy lead.
Actually,
sexy.
he and Dave Murray.
Yeah, they
great
both
leads on
knocked this out of the park. It's very reminiscent of Coming Home from The Final Frontier.
Best lead on the album.
Big, epic song. But again, I think with a different mix. Again, beef up those guitars. Of course, you had the synths doing whatever. But I don't know. It just feels like it is missing something to like just knock it up another notch. And it's already up there pretty high. Like honestly, it's one of my favorite tracks in the album.
And it closes with some seagulls.
Yes.
Where did the seagulls come?
Caw.
They came from the shore.
And that is another issue. Length. Again, there's a lot of extra stuff on here.
Oh boy.
Or sections that could have been shortened.
Oh boy.
Yeah. The Parchment. Longest song on here. Really good riffy song. But again, you can have too much of a good thing because, I mean, we talk about dry humping riffs. This is to the point of chafing.
Yeah, the Parchment definitely could have used a little editing, but once again, that is one of the tracks that Steve Harris just basically said this is what it is, and who knows, maybe if they would have presented it to the band, someone would have said, hey mate, you know, maybe we take it down a
trim off a
notch.
little bit here and a little bit here and
A little around here.
now.
But we'll never know.
I mean, it's good, but I was getting sleepy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's boring or relaxing, but I was yawning a lot.
They're trying to write like prog metal length songs, but with, you know, prog metal, of course, you have lots of different movements to keep it really interesting. They're kind of hammering one riff and not like stoner metal where it's just droning on and you're kind of stoned anyway and just kind of in it.
It's the maideny, Egypty kind of thing.
But the one thing that I thought was pretty bad on here was Death of the Celts.
No, I disagree.
I know you disagree,
I
but
disagree.
I can't with that
disagree.
song.
I love Death of the Celts.
It's 10 minutes long, but somehow it feels like it's 3 weeks long.
I enjoy all 3 of the last tracks. The Steve Harris trilogy. The Parchment's too long. I love Death of the Celts. And the one track we didn't talk about, though.
Hell on Earth is really good.
Great closer.
Yeah,
Great
good.
closer.
Yeah.
It's actually the whole Lost in Anger, Life in Danger. I like that whole last refrain. I think it's really powerful. And actually, Bruce sounds great on that track.
The intro is, I get a John Carpenter Escape from New York kind of vibe.
A little bit.
A little bit. In 3 minutes until Bruce says something.
Yeah. And this was, you know, a mild 11 minutes, 19 seconds of a song.
Yeah. Jesus, Harold Christ, it's long.
Yeah. But somehow Death of the Celts is longer.
Yeah, that's true.
However, I think he hates it so much because he wanted to river dance during it.
I can't river dance.
It's basically for Iron Maiden fans that are familiar with the deep cuts or the Blaze Bayley years, we should say. It's basically very reminiscent of a song called The Klansman. It's basically The Klansman Part 2. It borrows a lot of themes from that, and I enjoy it. And Nick, not so much.
You did a sequel to the best song on your worst album. Like it just feels like I was locked in a hot porta potty at Ren Fair, and I couldn't get out. It's so long, and the problem is it plateaus so early to the point where it just keeps going. You know, I'm tired of the Shire. I want to get to Mordor again. That's the thing.
It's the feast before the men ride out or sail out or walk out or however they're going to wherever the hell they're going.
Shine out!
Steve and his merry iron minstrels.
Pretty much. If there was a pan flute anywhere in this, we'd probably have a problem.
It was probably the keyboard.
It was probably
God, that keyboard. But I mean, overall though, this still has a lot of bangers on it. And
it's Iron Maiden.
It is Iron Maiden. I mean, honestly, they're still consistent, and they're in this kind of interesting phase of their career where they're kind of experimenting a little bit more, maybe a little too long. I mean, this is another 2-discer, but
long in the tooth.
I like the fact that there is some different stuff on here, and the passion, I think, is still in there. The mix is definitely something I think that needs to be adjusted. Just, you know, you have 3 guitarists.
The drums sound really good.
Oh, yeah, dude. But, I mean, yeah, it's an Iron Maiden album. It's pretty good.
So overall, rating-wise, I've thought a lot about this. I'm going to give this album a 4 out of 5. I enjoyed this album a lot. There was only 2 songs that didn't really jive with me out of an hour and 40 minutes. And while this album does have its shortcomings as far as maybe some edits that could have been made, maybe some instruments that could have been risen, lowered, this, that, the other, but the positives for me is there's new creative things being injected into these songs. So while they still have the same Iron Maiden tropes, we're getting sprinkles and splashes of some creative new things that we haven't heard before. And once again, by album 17, that's important to me. I also like this album better than Book of Souls. I think that the songs resonate with me a little bit more. While there may be some more anthemic, more epic jams on Book of Souls, this feels a little more creative to me. And regardless of some of its shortcomings, I still really enjoyed it. 4 out of 5.
I am gonna go with a 3 and a 5, 3.5. I mean, it's Iron Maiden. God love them, God bless them. We got more Iron Maiden songs. Hell yeah. They recorded this like 2 years ago and put it in a vault, and somebody added a lot of keyboards to it, I think.
Kevin Shirley.
Yeah.
Steve.
Shirley.
And probably Steve.
Yeah. My favorite songs are the singles, and the first song, Senjutsu.
Senjutsu!
Pretty good. It's just not on par with your Power Slaves and your Numbers of the Beasts and because, you know, you were young, hungry, and all of that. But by no means is this bad. It's just long. Probably shave 20 minutes off of it and it would be real tasty. Real tasty. But 3.5. It's Maiden. Don't ever not listen to Maiden.
Yeah.
That's silly.
I mean, what the hell's wrong with it?
Ridiculous. I am going to give it a 3. I like this album, but again, there's too much of keyboards, of course, and just, you know, like edits here and there. But I don't know, like the feel in this album is kind of disjointed. It is kind of all over the place, but there's some really good songs in it. Again, I think the title track, Stratejo, Days of Future Past, really good. The closer, Hell on Earth, is amazing. But the bad tracks, you know, the ones that I didn't get into, I mean, it's only 3 of them, but that's still like over a half an hour worth of material there. So this could have been trimmed down to maybe 1 disc. I kind of want to hear Maiden get back to like the earlier sound with Bruce Dickinson, like those glory years. Like, give me something with that sort of energy again. And I know they still have it because they still exhibit it on here. There's this kind of long theatrical thing that they like doing right now, and sometimes it really works. I think the Parchment's really good. It's just too damn long. I want those trimmed down, concise songs, you know, loaded with all the ripping lead work and everything, and a different approach maybe in terms of mixing it. Like give it like kind of a more organic feel or something like that. Just, I don't know. You have 3 guitarists. I'm still on that.
Yeah, do something with that.
And no more keyboards, goddammit. But this is still a good album. If you're a Maiden fan, you will find stuff you like on here. I guarantee it. And if you're not a Maiden fan, I would say start all the way back at like Killers and the original good shit, and then find the Maiden you love, because I know it's there. So yeah, 3 stars. Go out and get it. It's still a fun time. You know, we started listening to it about noon today, and we just finished like an hour ago. It's 8 p.m.
The next day.
The next day.
Yes.
I shaved in between listens. But go get it. It's good. It's Iron Maiden.
Well, that brings us to the end. If you like what you saw here, please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed to our channel, please hit that subscribe button. We'd greatly appreciate it. It also welcomes you into the community, as well as notifies you every time we release new content, which is damn near daily.
We're also on Patreon. If you would like to help us out there will be a link below for that. We are going to start throwing up more content eventually here. We just got to figure out what that is. We also have a giveaway going up, and it's not nudes. It is not nudes. But we do have a giveaway going on. That is true. We have a stack of 8 CDs we're giving away, including the new Cannibal Corpse with the uncensored cover. Once we hit 7,500 subs, we are going to do a drawing from this video that you're going to comment on, which will be linked down below and should be instantly playing on our channel. All you have to do, again, comment, you're entered, and then we will figure out which one of you wins. And thank you for getting us this far, because it's kind of crazy seeing this channel blow up. At least in my mind, it's blown up.
Blow.
Yeah,
You said blow.
I did say blow. But either way, thank you guys so much for watching, so much for supporting us along this journey, and go get you some Maiden.
Up the fucking irons.